And it's 7 o'clock. Clerk, can I have the roll called, please?
Here. Here.
Trustee King. Here. Vice President Marquez. Here. And President Weekly.
Present. All right, welcome everyone. Bienvenidos a todos to the public session for the May 13th, 2026 meeting of the Redwood City School Board. Our interpreter will now give instructions for how to access translation. Do you have Itzel online?
Yes, I'm sorry, I couldn't mute. Couldn't unmute. Buenas tardes, esta noche se está ofreciendo interpretación a español. Si ustedes necesitan interpretación, pueden llamar al número gratuito 978-990-5137 con el código de acceso 837-7041. De nuevo es un número gratuito y se estará ofreciendo interpretación esta noche. Gracias.
Gracias. Just so all participants are aware, at the direction of the board, this meeting is being recorded and will be shared with the public. We generally try to post our meeting videos on YouTube about a day or two after. Tonight, we're going to hear from North Star and approve their SIPSs, as well as review EV charger installations and a possible Azure cloud migration. We'll also be covering our plan for board meetings for next year. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge the elephant in the room with the KQED article. Let me say that as a parent of children in the district, it's very concerning when we learn something about student safety. As parents, we want an immediate resolution. We want to ensure that our children are safe and that those entrusted with our kids' safety do the right thing. We also want to make sure that those responsible for safety protocols are doing the right thing generally, that we have the right policies and procedures in place to ensure that when we hire as a district, we are hiring great talent who will be safe to be with our students. As a district, we are always looking for ways to learn about ways to improve our processes and policies to keep students safe. That's an evolving practice. Policies and procedures continue to be updated. For instance, in 2022, it began to be possible to see the reason for a credential being revoked. In 2025, AB 2534 not only mandated that school districts inquire about credible complaints at prior districts, but it also mandates that the receiving district make that disclosure back to the requesting district. The district has used and will continue to use best practices in hiring and the tools available to us to review a candidate. In the past, that was largely through reference checks with prior employers, but we now have additional visibility from these more recent tools. There's a limited amount we can share or that would be appropriate to share in a public forum about any particular employee's case. I will note that the teacher in question as of today is not currently teaching at the school site. The district monitors for safety issues and takes reports and complaints very seriously and investigates such complaints in detail in order to have a fair, thoughtful, and deliberate next course of action on how to proceed. I'm grateful for the deep and abiding passion I see for this matter from so many of us, from so many parents, to hold us accountable for doing the right thing by students. The board encourages all members of the public to participate and provide comment on issues of concern, regardless of whether or not they're on the agenda. If you are here in person, please fill out a speaker comment card. You don't have to give your legal name, but if you'd like for us to follow up with you, please consider adding contact information. If you're online with Zoom, you can just raise your hand and we will call on you based on your Zoom name. If you're speaking on a topic on the agenda, you'll be called at the time that item is being considered. If it's not on the agenda, we will call on you in the public comment portion near the beginning of our meeting. To be fair to all speakers, comment is limited to 3 minutes, unless otherwise noted. You'll see a countdown clock at the front of the podium. As a reminder, anytime a public comment is on an item that is not on the agenda, the board will be unable to take action or comment on the matter. If you're curious about what else we are going to discuss in future board meetings, please check out the agenda item toward the end labeled Other Business/Suggested Items for Future Agenda, which has a nice PDF attachment showing our planned schedule of board agenda items and topics. As a reminder, if you'd like something on the agenda for us to discuss, you'll need to get that request to the board president and the superintendent at least 10 days in advance of the board meeting. Dr. Baker and I will confer and decide on when or if to place it on the agenda. And of course, you are free to write your thoughts at any time to any of us in English or in Spanish. Now, moving on to number 3. Sadly, we do not have a student-led Pledge of Allegiance this morning. Changes to the agenda. I have been asked by staff to move 8.2, which is the Henry Ford report, that there's some more work that needs to be done there.
Take it off.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Any other changes that people would like to make to the agenda? Okay. With that, would someone like to move to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll move to approve the new agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, motion carries. Moving on now to public comment. Speakers, when I call your name, come to the front of the podium and make sure you push the button on the right so that the speaker lights up. First up will be Pam Barash.
You. Good evening, board members, cabinet members, Dr. Rubicaba, fellow teachers, and community members. Thank you for giving me this time tonight. My name is Pam Barish, and I am still a kindergarten teacher at Henry Ford School. I have spoken to you several times this year online, and I sent you all an email that sadly no one responded to, but I hope you took the time to read. With 16 days left in this school year and 196 in my teaching career, yes, I am counting, I am bringing to your attention 3 very different things tonight, not having anything to do with data, class size, environment, workplace safety, and morale. All of them are important topics that have been spoken about and emailed to you over the past 4 months. My talking points are rather mundane: gas prices, grocery prices, and cost of living in the Bay Area. You may be scratching your head right now and asking, why, Pam, did she bring these things up that have anything to do with RCSD? I'm going to explain. I have lived my entire life since I was in kindergarten on the peninsula. I was fortunate enough to be able to buy a home and raise my children near their grandparents and in public schools in San Mateo. I remember when I was paying $1.99 a gallon for gas, and I could walk into the grocery store and spend double digits on my bag of groceries. Even when I started my teaching career in Hayward, my commute was less than 20 minutes. Now it is 11 minutes, if you are wondering. My point, gas is now upwards of, I don't need to tell you, you know. My bag of groceries is costing triple digits, and it is impossible to own a home or find affordable rent in this area. Some of our finest and newest teachers in this district are commuting upwards of 90 minutes each way. I lost my place, excuse me. 90 minutes each way because it is the only way to afford to live in the Bay Area. We worry about the mental health of our students. How about the quality of life and the mental health of our teachers as they try to get to and from work and raise their families with these factors looming every single day? You say you want to attract the very best in Redwood City School District. Please compensate the very best appropriately so that you can attract and retain them and they can afford to earn a living wage in the area that they teach in. It is not rocket science. It is believing in those that you want in your classroom that they are worth it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Pam. Next up, we have Bree Henney.
Can you remind me where
You've already got it. You're good to go.
Okay. All right. So, a neighbor kindly informed me of the article published by KQED, and I truly came unglued. I'm here. I would like to ask for full transparency as we go through this process. It is one thing to send our children to teachers who this particular teacher was publicly berating several students daily, making it very difficult to try to learn math in that environment. It's very different to send my daughter to a teacher who's publicly berating and say, don't let it affect your grade, do your job, to sending my daughter somewhere where I know she is not safe. She is not safe. And I am livid, not just for my child, but for every single child who's entrusted to Clifford. So some specific questions I will email also to you. What was the district's level of knowledge when hiring this individual? If they hired this person knowing of his background and history with children, what was done to ensure the behavior was not repeated, would not be repeated, although it has been, and I've heard that recently from our children. What safeguards are in place in terms of oversight on this individual and everyone else? What safeguards are in place? When asking this individual's previous employers, was the question asked, is he eligible for rehire in any of the schools where he worked previously over the last couple of decades? I'm glad to see that the teacher's no longer teaching on the campus. I'm very concerned that the principal felt this teacher was safe to stay in the classroom, and that despite what was released to the public about his past actions, he was deemed safe. That is horrifically and incredibly concerning to me. I'm so grateful for the parents who have gathered together to find answers, and I sincerely hope that we see transparency so that we can begin to rebuild trust. And shout out to the fantastic teachers who are behind me, some of them. I see you and I appreciate you beyond measure. So please, I am asking for full transparency and to know what happened when this individual and others were hired, what processes you all went through, or anyone else responsible for it.
Thank you, Bree. Next up is Sarah Hederspat.
Hello. What am I pushing this?
You're good. You're on.
Oh, it's on. Okay. Hi, my name is Sarah Hefter-Spock, and I am a concerned parent of a second and fifth grader at Clifford. And we've been there since 2019. So we've been through the pandemic and many different milestones at the school. My concern is really around how the district felt it acceptable to hire somebody who is an accused sexual harasser at our school. And the response of the school and the district, in my opinion, has been quite deplorable. Yesterday, in speaking with the principal of the school, her comment to me on the phone was that she did not hire him. And there has been a major lack of accountability from the school. I share the same concerns as fellow parents. I'd like to understand what safeguards are in place, how we're ensuring that our students are safe on campus. How can we trust that you're keeping them safe? And in conjunction with the bill that you mentioned that passed in January 2025, I'm asking for a retroactive look at the teachers that have been hired across Redwood City, where there might be some relevant investigations that have been filed against them at other school districts. And I would like to have that shared publicly where relevant with the community, so we know who the teachers are that are teaching our students, or our children, excuse me. I would just really like for people to take accountability for what's happening, because our job as parents is to protect our children, and we're entrusting you all to do that. And that there's a major lack of trust. And Baker wrote in the end of his email today that he sent to our community that, thanks for trusting us. And I think that has completely been shattered for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Josh Levinson.
Evening. My name is Josh. I'm a Clifford parent of a 7th, 5th, and 3rd grader. I'm also here tonight because of the KQED article. Like many families, I didn't know about this history until I read the report, and it led to deep concern and a very tough conversation with my kids, in particular my son, who's the 7th grader. What I learned from him was so concerning that I sat down and filed a formal Title IX complaint that I submitted to the district this morning, and pulled my kids from school yesterday and committed that they won't return until that individual was no longer on campus. It's hard to hear about excuses made in the past when you look at what's happening today. From the article, my understanding of past testimony from this teacher was that he would have stopped his behavior years ago if he had been clearly warned. Yet we're here. What I've heard from my son is that this pattern hasn't changed. I'm glad to hear that the teacher is not currently teaching. It was unsettling to read that a leader in this administration felt, and I quote, pleased that a state suspension for this behavior was only 7 days, and to then see justification saying that the district has to trust the system is disappointing. Trust is earned. When someone's deemed unfit to teach, that should be a massive red flag, not something brushed aside because the database says they're technically employable. I know there's tenure and legal process. Other districts did the hard work to fire this individual while he was tenured there. Our kids deserve the same effort. I hope this matter is taken seriously, that we acknowledge it's not just a past issue, and we commit to transparency about how we got here and how we're going to make sure there's long-term change. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. I do have 2 online comment cards. The next is from a R. Gonzalez. If you are R. Gonzalez online, so I'm not seeing that name in the list, could you please raise your hand on Zoom? Okay, not seeing a hand up. Next up is Jonathan Cantu. Yes, I see you, Jonathan. Your hand is up. Can we mark as able to speak? Can we mark Jonathan as able to speak? Okay, Jonathan, you can unmute.
Yes. So I just have a simple question, which is that in the opinion of the school board, is it acceptable to employ a teacher who's been fired for inappropriately touching students? And if it is not acceptable, what is the school board going to do about it?
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, with that, I'm not seeing any further public comment online or in person. So I think with that, we will now move on to union comment. We will now hear from our labor representatives if they would like to share. The same 3-minute time limit will apply. Do we have any of our union representatives? Yes.
Good evening, Dr. Rubicaba, cabinet members, and guests. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you this evening. My name is Shauna Ingersoll. I serve as Chapter 5 President and Secretary, and I am also the Office Manager at Henry Ford School. Maria Stockton asked me to share a few updates tonight about some upcoming events and opportunities for our membership. First, I'd like to remind our middle school principals about an exciting opportunity for our students. Chapter 5 will be offering a $100 scholarship to an exceptional 8th grade student who's graduating this year. This is small but a meaningful way for us to recognize students who have demonstrated outstanding character, effort, and achievement during their middle school years. We kindly ask that you submit the selected student's name to Maria Stockton no later than Friday, May 29th. We truly look forward to celebrating one of your students and highlighting their accomplishments. In addition, I want to take a moment to recognize an important upcoming celebration. Classified Appreciation Week begins May 18th, and it's a time to dedicate to honoring the incredible contributions of our classified staff. These are the individuals who keep our schools running smoothly every single day, often behind the scenes, supporting both students and staff in countless ways. To celebrate, Chapter 5 is hosting a dinner for our classified members and a guest on Saturday, May 16th at Harry's Opera. This event is our way of saying thank you and showing appreciation for all the hard work, dedication, and care that our classified employees bring to Redwood City schools. We're happy to share that we've already received a great response, and we're looking forward to an evening of connection, recognition, and celebration with so many of our colleagues. On behalf of Chapter 5, I want to extend our gratitude to all of you, continued support of our members and the work we do. It truly makes a difference. Thank you again for your time this evening, and have a wonderful night.
Thank you so much. We're now going to move to approve our bond consent items. As a reminder for members of the public, consent items are the ones where we approve a group of items in one go that are considered unlikely to be objectionable or need discussion. Somebody like to move that we approve our bond consent items?
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. All right, motion carries. All right, Section 7, we now have our bond program items that require discussion. 7.1 is we have one item to discuss tonight, which is EV chargers for Hoover and Roy Cloud.
Good evening, Dr. Rubacapa, board members, community members. My name is Martin Cervantes. I am the Director of Facilities and Bond Program Director. This evening, we have Will with Coming Group, who's our program manager for Measure T, which is our solar project. And we also have Arthur Singh, who's with NV5, who's our solar energy consultant. This item requesting approval of the technology purchase agreement with PowerFlex for EV charging equipment and software services at Hoover Community School and Roy Cloud School for Phase 2 project. The agreement includes 4 level 2 EV chargers at Hoover, 4 level 2 chargers at Roy Cloud, and 3 years of PowerFlex software and support services. Following the RFP process conducted pursuant to Public Code Section 20118.2, PowerFlex was selected based on qualifications, operational capabilities, and overall value to the district. This work is necessary to provide EV charging infrastructure at both sites and support final completion and closeout of the solar phase 2 projects. Do we have any questions regarding this?
So I had some extensive questions back and forth about whether it would be possible to upgrade our prior EV chargers just from a software update as opposed to a rip out. And I really appreciate the district's thoroughness in going through with a pretty detailed audit of all of the EV chargers that we had and investigating that option seriously. So I appreciate that. Some members of the public may believe erroneously that all EV charging is free across the district. I'm wondering if you could just maybe spend 30 seconds describing our EV charging policy.
So generally I'm Arthur, I'm NV5. We're the clean energy consultant for Redwood City School District. Generally, we would recommend the school set a charging rate to recover the operational cost of the EV chargers. And some school district would like to recover the capital cost of the EV chargers as well. We generally leave it up to the school to decide which cost to recover. But generally, at a minimum, we should recover the operational cost of the chargers.
Great. Thank you so much.
And actually with PowerFlex, it would be 7%. So we'd be getting about 93% back.
Thank you. Rick?
Quick comment on that. We can bring something back more formally about the rates we charge and the benefit that we give if we want to do something different for district employees like has been done in the past.
Yeah.
I also want to note, President Weekly, this is not a rip and replace on this agenda item. This is the installation of 8 new chargers.
Yes.
One you're referring to comes a little bit later, but I just want to make sure that we're clear that these were for new chargers as part of the HVAC Phase 2 summer project.
Thank you so much.
Right. And just to clarify, that's why it's part of the bond budget, it's part of the solar one, whereas the other ones are kind of more operating expense changes, right? And that's where they end up in capital.
Yes.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you. Other comments or questions, fellow trustees? Nope. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right. It passes. Thank you so much. All right. We are on to 8.1. We'll now be hearing North Star's presentation, and then we'll move to discuss and approve the SIPSA.
Good evening, Dr. Rubacaba, President Weekly, trustees, cabinet members, and the audience both here and at home. It's lovely to see you tonight. My name is Erin Kakos, and I have the honor of being the principal of North Star Academy. I am joined this evening by our instructional coach and retired Redwood City School District Administrator, Carolyn Williams. Our assistant principal, Mary Dornay, is under the weather, so she's not able to join us tonight. I do really appreciate the opportunity to present and share tonight all the ways in which North Star is seeking and working towards our district LCAP goals. Is there a trick to the clicker? . Okay. So LCAP Goal 1 seeks to support students with attendance, suspensions, and overall well-being. Our attendance rate is really positive. We work hard to create an environment that is welcoming for students, and that is reflected in the rate and the data that you see on this slide. All our students who are meet the criteria for chronic absenteeism, we reach out individually, and all those students in that category, we have verified illnesses for the year. This was a really sick winter for some of our kiddos, and we are seeing that our kiddos want to be here, but the kiddos in this category all had health reasons where they had to miss a few days of school. Our suspension rates are low, and we attribute this to being present, being proactive, and viewing behavior incidents as learning moments for our students. What are our overall takeaways and next steps? We really want to focus on the student experience on our campus. We want them to have a positive experience when they're on our campus. So we have reinstituted the house system. So we have each grade level, an elementary grade partnered with a middle school grade. We have campus-wide gatherings, campus-wide activities. It really creates a sense of belonging and a connection across grade level for our students. In terms of behavior, we take a restorative and a proactive approach. We work individually with students, break down the incidents, we go through the learning moments that were there, and importantly, we monitor after the fact. We continue our check-ins, we do our walk-bys with our thumbs up, we assign students to different staff members for regularly scheduled check-ins to make sure that they have an access point if they need help or support in any way. We also are working to strengthen one of the pillars of our school, which is our service learning model. So this year we added a capstone project for our 8th graders, where each 8th grader had to complete a project in which they give back to our community in a way that they are passionate about. So we have had a lot of seminars, a lot of teaching of younger students happening. We've had a lot of philanthropic ventures happening on our campus. Beyond the 8th grade day, the 8th grade capstone project, though, we view every student as a scholar. And part of being a scholar is giving back and creating learning for others, whether that's inviting another grade level in to see your presentations or designing an opportunity for other students to come and interact with what you are doing and the knowledge you have created. Sharing that knowledge is an act of service learning. For our school connectedness, we want to make sure that every student has a pathway and a voice and a way to reach out if they need help. We want our campus to be somewhere students are excited to be. And if there's a barrier to that, we want to know right away. So we implemented the Zone to Grow mental health check-in system this year. It's a weekly check-in for every student that they respond to a question, and the question can be customized by our teachers. Those are then flagged for our mental health counselors, and students who need a response get one quickly because their check-in responses go directly to our mental health counselors. It's a pathway for students to get support immediately if they need it. It's anonymous. Well, it's not anonymous, but it's not a vocal ask for help. You're not asking a teacher to set up an appointment for you. You are responding to the check-in and then getting the support you need. We also work on creating our sense of belonging with our school-wide gatherings every month where we celebrate student achievements. We honor our cornhole intramural winners, and we honor our science Olympiad winners who placed in the science Olympiad. So we cover the whole gamut, and we celebrate each other's accomplishments. Through the generous funding of our parent club, we also are able to offer our enrichment program. It's the end of the day, 4 days a week, and it is our opportunity to let students experience and explore their passions and interests. Our staff partner with parents and vendors and themselves teach courses that wouldn't normally be seen in the school day in this environment. We have a parent who's a pastry chef. She's led an amazing baking class this year. We have a parent who is a yoga instructor who does mindfulness and yoga with our students. These are just a few examples. Also through Parent Club, we're able to offer each student an art curriculum. We also have a very robust theater program. We have a dramatic play in the fall, and we have a musical every spring. Beyond that, we want to make sure every student has an access point. Every student is participating outside of a classroom. So we have many clubs to choose from, and we have many activities at recess and lunch that are beyond the typical sports you would see. We want to make sure every student is participating in this campus community in some way. For next year, we're going to keep going with everything that we have, and all actions will continue. But based on student feedback, we're going to bolster our house system to include specific buddies. So we're going to have an elementary kiddo partnered with a specific upper grade student so that they have a buddy relationship throughout the year. And they'll gather at monthly events and get to know their buddy, and then they'll have cross grade level connection in a formalized manner. We're also going to partner with MIT to offer 2 collaborative classes. We'll have a collaborative art class at the end of the day that is half MIT students, half North Star students, part of our enrichment program, and then also a music class as well that will follow the same structure. LCAP Goal 2 supports our English learners and is specifically looking for growth. And if you look at our data, we had last year a total of 11 multilingual learners. 5 out of our 11 reclassified last year. The reclassification is in large part due to 2 highly effective, highly necessary staff members. Our MTSS TOSA runs small group ELD instruction for our English learners. She also runs intervention groups, whether that's math, language, reading, or literacy skills. Our guest teacher pushes into class to support in real time, and then also pulls out of class when needed and works with students one-on-one to really break down the language of the assignment to work on the writing structure in a more individualized manner. Through the generous funding of our PTA, we were able to ensure our guest teacher returns next year full-time, so we'll be able to offer the same support to our students next year as well. Goal 3, as you know, addresses English language arts and math on the iReady and the CASP. Our iReady data overall, we had good progression of students moving into grade level. On our iReady growth for ELA, we did see a decrease from our base year to the actual outcome for 24-25. But as of mid-year, we are rebounding and we are back in a forward and upward growth. We have a similar pattern for math. With iReady, we were able to move students from those below grade level bands up into grade level. And we saw a slight decrease. In the actual, but at mid-year, we are rebounding and regaining. For our English learners on the CASP, we saw some wonderful growth. Again, this is a small number of students, but we did see great growth for them. And the CASP math scores is an area where we know we need to do some focus work. So that is a data point that we recognize and that we are looking into and have some great plans to support. Our takeaways and our next steps for this Goal 3, we have focused for the last 2 years on providing professional development for our staff that is specifically supporting our students. We have partnered with Dr. Cash for the last 2 years, who has come on site to develop individualized support for our staff, for our grade levels and our staff as a whole. We have focused on engagement and instructional strategies in the past. We are going to continue that, but also this coming year, our site council has committed funding for Dr. Cash to return. And on top of the engagement and instructional strategies, we'll be focusing on assessment and feedback. Those are the next steps in the learning cycle. Once we've engaged the students in the learning and we have taught the learning, are we assessing in an appropriate manner? And then what are we doing with those assessments? How are we getting the feedback back to the students so they can grow and make changes and continue that learning cycle for the next round? We're going to continue our collaboration and our PLC work. Dr. Cash will also be a part of this. We are going to be focusing on aligning school-wide. Our PLCs will be completed in departments, language arts, science, and math. And Dr. Cash is going to work with us on that assessment piece, which is such an important part of our PLC work, making sure we are examining the data in a manner that is meaningful and that is useful. For our student supports, we have an amazing team. Our special ed team works with our MTSS TOSA to make sure all of our students who have any sort of plan has access to the supports that they need. We also have a site council that's really dedicated to supporting our students. And this year, with our Measure U carryover, we increased our homework center offerings so that we could offer that to a larger proportion of our students. Knowing who we are as learners is really important to us at North Star. And so we seek to educate every student and help them gain awareness about how they learn best and what strengths that they bring to a group. We also seek to educate them on how other people learn and what strengths those type of learners have. That comes into play with our instruction and our academic rigor. Once we understand how learning happens, then we know how we can push and challenge our students. We work with Dr. Cash, and we also next year are going to be doing a book study so that we can grow and learn together as educators. Not because we don't know, but because we can always learn more. We focus on our compacted curriculum where we move faster through the rote skills. We move faster through the review. We also focus on our scholarly habits. By the time our students leave us in 8th grade, we want them to be very steady in their note-taking, in their time management, in their planning. All of these skills help and contribute to them growing as scholars. Also new next year, we will dedicate staff time to further our collaboration. We'll be using tuning protocols to make sure that we are getting collaborative feedback across departments. Everybody has great ideas, and we want to make sure we all contribute and make it a great academic environment for all of our students. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much, Erin.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for the presentation, Erin. A lot of good stuff that isn't, I think, maybe unsurprising. A lot of positive things that are happening there. I think for me, love to hear about the day of service and the capstone project. That's great. I think we're in a time where community building is super important, and so it's great to see at the school level that there's proactiveness in developing that in the house system. That was great. Also love to hear that the mental health is being something that's focused on, and all the enrichment that's happening. And thank you for the PTO, PTA for that, to be able to provide that. So it's like, I think there's a self-selection within the school, but there's still a lot of work that's going into other things, which is great. I think we saw the academic results, which I think reflect a very solid baseline, which is good. But I think North Star is probably maybe unfairly, but there's a different curve sometimes on like, okay, that's great. I think there's some self-selection there. How do we keep on pushing? So on one hand, again, great to hear all the work that's going in there. There's a few things though that I wanted to slight flags. Loved to learn a little bit more about. I think if I read the data correctly, I think goals 2 and 3 are basically focused on fewer than 15 students. So it tells us some things that's important, but doesn't necessarily tell us the whole story of the rest of the population. So I want to dig a little bit into that. I think 2 things that I saw. One were among school climate, roughly a third of students reported feeling bored or unfocused. And then looking at some of the iReady growth results, I think it looks like they've stagnated a bit relative to past years, as well as to some of our other schools, which doesn't need to be a competition, but just something to flag. It sounds like I think I heard a lot about what the plans are to beef that up, which is great, but I'd just be curious to hear. I don't know if I heard what the hypothesis is of like do we have a theory of why we think the students are not feeling super motivated, or at least not uniformly, or like what's the underlying issue there?
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason we are partnered with Dr. Cash to increase the variety of instructional strategies that we're using. When we go, starting in 4th grade, we departmentalize. So the kids go to different teachers for the different content areas. If everyone is using the same strategies and everybody's doing a gallery walk, then everybody's doing an essay, it gets really repetitive. And so what we're working on is what other strategies can we use to engage the learners? It's all about engaging them in the content so that they are confident and see the value in being engaged in that iReady test. Right. So Dr. Cash is taking us through different ways that we can keep the rigor, but also vary the instructional strategies. So instead of just assigning everyone an essay, there's a menu board with 9 different choices. You might choose the essay and you might choose a field journal to create, and somebody else might make a TED Talk. But those kind of variety of strategies really helps our learners know, invest in what they're doing and engage more deeply with the concepts. It also helps them be a little bit more enthusiastic about what they're doing and want to be there and want to dig deeper and want to keep going with their curiosities.
That's super helpful. Thanks.
Thank you, Principal Aaron. Agree with David. I really like the daily check-in. It's happening daily for the check-in question or
Weekly right now.
weekly? Okay. I mean, I think that's great, and it's a good outlet for the kids to be able, for you guys to hopefully catch anything that the kids need. More of a follow-up to the kind of middle school engagement piece. I think part of your answer kind of implied it was kind of getting them engaged in the content, but have you seen that maybe some of the kids are already there and that's partly why they're disengaged? And have you looked at other kind of academic needs for those kids?
Yeah, so that's a big part of our conversation right now. And moving into the assessment piece is how do you assess and properly assess creativity? We don't want to offer a ceiling. Oftentimes when we give students a rubric that has, 1 through 4 filled out, we give them an automatic ceiling, and we don't want to do that. We want to have them create their own ceiling, but that presents a whole learning for staff on how do we do that? How do we fairly assess that work? So that's where we're moving toward with Dr. Cash this next year is for the students that are there and that are with you and need more, how can we do that in a manner that supports them and they get the feedback? It's more consultative teaching than the straight lecture that we're sometimes used to.
Thank you. And other point that I was glad to see was the melding of the MIT and the North Star campus together. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron, for the presentation. It's good to hear about how North Star's doing. Yeah, I'll just jump off from there. That the partnership with MIT, I think, will be really interesting, and see where that goes to bring those schools together. One of the things I was kind of wondering, but you actually answered it, was how the limited supplemental LCAP funds are being used at the school site. And we know that it's going for that MTSS TOSA. So to hear how they're working with the emerging lingual learners is multilingual learners really kind of nailed home how that money is being worked and helping them out. I don't think this is something that to discuss for the SIPSA, but a couple of years ago we put in universal testing because there's diversity at North Star, but as a non-boundary school, it's not totally representative of the Redwood City School District. Doesn't look like that totally moved the needle as much as everyone had hoped. So conversation for a later day, but it's hard not to notice it when we're looking at the data and reviewing the site that there's still a representation and something that we need to dig into and sort of figure out there. Universal testing was a good first step, but clearly not enough. Anyways, thank you for the report.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, thank you very much for the report. And I'm always pleased with every time North Star comes over and gives us all the information. I really like the fact that you are getting MIT students engaged with you said art and music?
Yeah.
Okay. So just a thought, since you guys are right next door and obviously your students are excelling, I'm wondering if this is something the district can think for a future date. Rather than, and it's really nice to do the enrichment classes, but I'm wondering, just like you mentioned, you're still struggling with the math and a lot of other schools and McKinley's struggling with the math. I'm wondering if, since you guys are right next door, if maybe they could take advantage to go and observe one of your classes to perhaps know whether the teachers and the students so that they can see what you guys are doing and collaborate at one point. I'm not saying to do like an entire semester of like interaction, but something to the sense where students are actually getting engaged, not necessarily just with the enrichment, which is the most fun part for the students, but we all know that academic is very important. So just a thought, again, it's just a comment. Everything else that you're doing, looks great. And so I've always said the needle's moving. And so that matters a lot. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, Erin. As with my fellow trustees, I love the MIT pairing. And just to underscore Trustee Marquez's point here, peer tutoring, right? Not just doing the fun stuff, but actually literally having some tutoring going across campus could be very, very powerful. It's a very well-studied and highly effective educational intervention. Seems like a great way to bridge the campuses for great outcomes for both populations. We've done little smatterings of peer tutoring experiments throughout the district. Every time we do, it turns out great. So awesome. Let's see some more of that. So it'd be great if we could help pioneer some of this stuff. Also really love the metacognitive approach around learner awareness that's highly evidence-driven. And so just evidence-driven approaches are dear to my heart. I really like that. Now for some of the tougher bits here, as you know, our focus in the district is on student growth, first and foremost, right? So given that North Star has the second lowest reading growth scores in the district, what are our plans to update and revamp our curriculum approach to fully challenge this population of scholars to go and help them achieve their goals?
Yeah, so we are working with our staff to challenge the students. That happens in the classroom, and that happens, our staff need to have all the tools in their toolbox to do that. And in order to do that, we're partnering with Dr. Cash. We've worked on the strategies, and so we see more strategies being used when we're in the classroom. Our book next year for our book study has it's organized by topic, so note taking, class discussions, and then within that topic, there are many, many strategies. We have it paced out into 7 different readings, and then we'll dig deep into that. We offer our guest teacher for peer educator observations to go see your peer try something different and then get feedback on how you could do that as well. I think moving into the assessment piece is going to be really key because we need to know that our students what they can and cannot do, but we need to look at how we can utilize our assessment data and especially our feedback, and then monitor if that feedback is being used to see growth.
Yeah.
And so that's the piece I'm really excited for this next year with Dr. Cash. We've had some planning time with him this year already, and he's going to lead a PD remotely for us tomorrow afternoon. And so we are setting the stage now to dig into that assessment feedback cycle to monitor that that's happening in between the different iReady tests.
Yeah, it's just one of these remarkably effective and straightforward things where you just ask students, do you feel like you're learning a lot? And the students actually do a pretty good job at answering candidly if they are or they aren't. And we can use that as a very timely barometer of learning rate, which is great. And I really appreciate the efforts and the strategies that you're describing here, the engagement with Dr. Cash. But I can't help but worry to a degree that part of why this is hard and why we're needing to develop these strategies and why we're struggling with this is not due to a lack of effort or the skill of the teachers. I struggle that our fundamental approach here of using compaction instead of acceleration for these students is the wrong approach. Both compaction and acceleration for gifted populations has been studied pretty effectively, and the data around compaction is quite weak. So my worry is that kind of the fundamental premise of how we're going about performing instruction at the school is not well grounded in pedagogy. And so we can adopt these approaches and make further forward progress, but we're going to be fighting headwinds. And we see that in the reading growth data. We see that in some of the boredom and disengagement that we've heard reported from students. And so I would love for us to take a moment at some point. It's obviously not going to be tonight, but to take a moment to go and review best practices in pedagogy for gifted education. Because if we're going to be pulling these kids out to a special school that's specially designed for them to maximize their learning rate, we should be maximizing their learning rate and using best practices to do that. So my hope is that we could at some point allocate a study session for best practices here and rigorously cover things like acceleration. Cool.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Dr. Rubalcaba?
Thank you so much, Principal Keikos. What an irony. I got to see you and spend time with you and your kids this morning. And it was so evident that climate, student climate and staff climate, school climate, is at really healthy levels. I saw a lot of joy. I saw a lot of happiness, kids engaged. And so I wanted to thank you and your team and your staff for all the great work that you are all doing. It doesn't surprise me to see attendance rates this high because kids are just, they love being there. And it was very evident in how I saw them interact with you. I saw them interact with staff. And I think that, there's a lot of credit that goes to the kind of work that you put into, collaborate with staff and teachers. And I am convinced that, as we continue to explore some of these, peer tutoring models, as well as, some of the best practices that we hope to explore later on, that you're going to be at a place with your staff that they're ready to take this on. And so I just, wanted to thank you for, your nurturing disposition and really welcoming me there as we popped into classrooms and things like that. I'm also very, I know a lot of you have already mentioned this, but this collaboration with MIT, because also had my eyes on MIT, and that was just great to see you all share the campus and the potential for that collaboration, I think is going to be incredible. Especially as we, consider things such as, peer tutoring, right? And just welcoming each other into the same learning environments, I think will provide that opportunity for kids to see other models and role modeling that will continue to raise the rigor for our kids. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any questions about the SIPSA, or would we like to make a motion about the SIPSA approval?
I'll move to approve North Star SIPSA.
All right, great. Any seconds?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you so much, Aaron.
Thank you. Good evening.
We're skipping 8.2 as discussed. 8.3, we're now moving on to the approval of reclassification of classified employees. Wendy.
Yes, thank you. Through the CSEA contract, Article 14 specifically, as noted in the board memo, is a great opportunity for a committee to come together and review job duties and how the positions have ebbed and flowed over the years, or changes needed or updated. And so the committee does meet usually annually, depending on interest and application. And so tonight we are bringing to you a recommendation for approval for the reclassification of our administrative secretaries. Are there any questions?
Nope.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Very well. Thank you so much. All right. 8.4, Resolution 24.
Yes, as you recall, on February 11th, we brought to you the various layoff scenarios based on our budget reduction work that we needed to go through in the fall. And since then, as you know, that moment is a moment in time where we analyze the budget and so forth. Since then, there have been some minor changes, but important changes that has changed the need for certain positions to be laid off. And so those are outlined in the board memo, specifically for classified, one LVN and the student services coordinator at MIT. The LVN due to a student enrollment need, and that does happen. It may very well happen as we progress along, certainly over the summer. And then the second one was the student services coordinator. Any questions about this new resolution that will need to be signed as an update from our original February 11th?
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to take a minute to recognize and acknowledge the McKinley community, because they came to our board meeting and were very, passionate about their student services coordinator. Is that the position that?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. And just how vital that role is. So I'm super pleased to see that you were able to find a way to get that back. And it just shows that it's a testament to the power of community advocacy and how when we all work together, we can really find ways to protect these kind of core supports for our students. So I just wanted to thank them for speaking up and thank the administration for being able to get that position back.
Beautifully put, Mike. Thank you. Other comment? Okay.
I'll move to adopt the resolution.
And I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, now for resolution 25.
Similar to the last resolution I just spoke of, this particular one now affects certificated. Once again, on February 11th is a dipstick in time, and we have to make the best decisions in the moment, certainly fiscally. But then we're also very closely watching enrollment numbers. And so there have been some specific changes that have changed as a result of those enrollment changes. And so there has been a need due to fluctuations in enrollment to add 4 new TK classrooms around the district, 2 at Roosevelt, 1 at Taft, and 1 Orion Co-op. 2 MIT classrooms since the February 11th due to increased enrollment, 6th grade, and then an art program. And then 1 new 6th grade classroom at Roy Cloud, also due to enrollment. So those affect the general education count that was listed in the resolution on February 11th. And then along with that, there is some other changes that happen. For example, a PTO might increase funds or create their letter of intent to fund, or a grant comes in or things like that. We do have the North Star MTSS TOSA actually that Aaron spoke about tonight that will be funded by supplemental concentration that was reinstated. And then we are moving the art teacher Kennedy, just a very small portion of that FTE to the general fund. It was in a grant, so we were able to do that. So those are the shifts from the February 11th resolution. Any questions about that?
I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution number 25.
All those in favor? Aye. Let's also make sure when we're seconding that we go off mic, so we can make minutes. Great. Number 26. Back to electric vehicles.
Good evening again. Martin, and with me I have Arthur again. Arthur's here for any technical questions. But this item is requested approval of resolution number 26 and the associated technology purchase agreement with PowerFlex for the replacement and modernization of district's EV charging software and hardware infrastructure pursuant to Public Code Section 20118.2. Following the shutdown of the Shell Recharge platform in April of 2025, the district's existing EV charging system lost managed functionality to 6 school sites. Staff has evaluated available alternatives and recommending PowerFlex based on operational capabilities, long-term support, centralized management features, and overall value to the district. So we're seeking approval of the resolution associated agreement. Have any questions?
The work going to happen over the summer also?
Yes. Yes, I believe the charters are about
Yep.
4 weeks.
Yep, they will be delivered in 1 month.
I gotta imagine this isn't as disruptive as, like, say, the whole solar project is for a parking lot.
No.
Right? Yeah, okay.
We can hope solar was more disruptive than I would have liked.
Yeah, it's, you know, you go to Hoover and you see the impact that it has in the parking lot there.
Yeah.
I can make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right. On to now the 8.7, the approval of the agreement for Atlas Pellizzari Electric for the amount of $70,520.
Yes. So again, following this resolution 26, we would like to get approval to bring in Atlas Pellizzari after receiving no proposals through a formal RFP process. The district obtained direct bids from qualified electrical contractors, and Atlas Pellizzari submitted the lowest responsive proposal to replace these units. So we're seeking approval if you have any questions regarding that.
Still annoyed that we couldn't do it via software update, but feels like we vigorously investigated that option. So, all right. Other comments, questions? Someone like make a motion that we approve the agreement?
I'll move that we approve the agreement.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. And go into the cloud. 8.8.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Dr. Rubalcaba, cabinet members. I'm Carlos Reina, Director of Technology. I'm here with Johnson Han, our new systems manager, coming to ask approval of the contract with Looking Point to migrate all the district servers to the cloud with Microsoft Azure Cloud Services. I'm going to have Johnson explain the details about the project.
Good evening. My name is Johnson Hang, Systems Manager for the department. As we know, our current environment is on-premise, leveraging Nutanix hardware, and we've been leveraging it for the past few years, since 2019. And it's in static physical servers across two environments, right, into two locations. Our goal is to migrate our entire infrastructure into the cloud Azure, which is a proven solution adopted by Fortune 500 companies, and it's stable and have a high SLA. So the group actually formally evaluated two professional services, Stepford and Looking Point. We did analysis of with potential replacements of our on-prem as well, and in the end, the team actually decided to leverage migrating to the cloud for address our concerns of cost savings and modernization, security, and business continuity moving forward as well. So in the end, we recommend choosing and going with Looking Point because they have a proven history, having worked with other public sectors, City of DLC, for example, and City of San Bruno. And then the upfront cost is roughly 10,800 for the completion of the project. And with their expertise, they're able to execute it within our projected timeline. Here in this slide, we have a projected 3-year cost comparison. If we stay with Nutanix on-prem, or it will cost us, the district, roughly 219,000 over the course of 3 years. Whereas when we migrate to the cloud, we have a projected expenditure of roughly 54,000 and change, right? 53 and change. So in the course of 3 years, we can expect to have a savings of roughly 165,000 plus if we migrate to the cloud. And on an ongoing yearly basis, is projected around 14,000 and change. And then if we stay, just the licensing alone for Nutanix, licensing is roughly 53,000 for the first year, well, every year, and then not including the hardware replacement as well. So when we do migrate to the cloud, it addresses our concerns, our primary objective, actually. Cost savings, modernization, business continuity, and enhanced security, which Microsoft Azure provides compared to what we have currently in the district. So as a financial summary, overview of upfront costs for the first year is projected at roughly 38,000 and change. Of course, that includes the professional services fee of 10,800, the reoccurring cost of approximately 14,000 on an annual basis by hosting in the cloud. But if we stay with Nutanix, just the licensing alone is 53,000 per year, not including the hardware refresh in the next coming year. So again, projected savings 165,000 plus. So we worked out multiple phase in our project. Well, upon approval from the board, we'll start the build out of the environment in the cloud, and then multiple weekends we'll have the actual migration of our infrastructure, critical servers into the cloud with minimal impact to the staff operations. And then once everything's stabilized, we will assess and consolidate and stabilize and optimize our footprint in the cloud. And then at the end, this fall, basically, with the optimized footprint, we can come back to the board to lock in a 3-year contract with Azure, so which will yield us significant savings for that long-term commitment with them. So in a nutshell, long-term advantages, it provides scalability, operational efficiency where the staff can focus our time to enhance other aspects and technical projects. And financial sustainability, we're moving away from CapEx to OpEx. And then, of course, the reliability of the 5 nines Azure is providing. And that's concluded our brief slide deck. And then we're hoping the board will approve the contract with Looking Point to help us migrate our assets into the cloud. Any questions?
I have questions. All right. Some things happen to be my area, some things are not. This is one of these things that is my area. I ran product for Google Cloud's data center software group. So this is a little bit my bailiwick. And I read through all of the materials here in a fair amount of detail. And I just want to, I think at a high level, just to start with the most important bit, I don't object to the fundamental desire to go and modernize their infrastructure. I think moving to the cloud is not necessarily a bad idea here. Azure's not a bad pick of a cloud provider. So I think like at a high level, the thrust of what we're trying to do all makes sense to me. I have very serious concerns about the cost estimates. I think they're grossly wrong. Possibly an order of magnitude wrong. Even so, I still would not object necessarily, but I think just we need to go in eyes wide open that what was sketched out here is very small number of grossly undersized server instances. I don't know any competent Microsoft server admin that would provision a Microsoft SQL server with 2 vCPUs and 16 gigabytes of RAM, even for relatively light workloads. And that's just like one example of many. Our overall provisioned bandwidth for the entire district would be 126 megabytes a second, which again is just like grossly underpowered for our needs. So my suspicion is that if we were to deploy what is proposed here, we would find that district employees would be who had to use these cloud hosted systems would be submitting a lot of complaints about not just performance, but also uptime and reliability. Because while you mentioned 5 nines, it is absolutely possible with an Azure architecture to achieve 5 nines of uptime. And this is not an architecture that would deliver that. In the deck that was just presented, it was talked about how this is going to help address a primary district objective about having geographically redundant failover. But the proposed plan does not have any geographically redundant failover. It's single-sided. So just, I feel like we're trying to have our cake and eat it too, trying to claim we're going to get a bunch of these cost savings by single siting with a very small number of instances, but then we're claiming that we get these benefits of geographic failover, and that's not included in the price at all. So that feels a little not totally clear and candid. So I think like I am not going to object to this. My vigorous suspicion is we're very quickly going to find that our cluster as spec'd was wildly underspec'd. We're going to need several more products. We're going to need much beefier instances. It's going to cost a lot more money, even with 3-year reserved instances, which is a good idea. I think coming back and saying we want to lock in the 3-year reserved instance is a good idea. And, you know, we're probably going to discover that we need better disaster recovery, that we need to explore some of these multi-site operations. And guess what? All those things are going to cost a bunch more money. So I've spoken my piece. I'm not going to get in the way of the district implementing this, but I have grave concerns about the way this was spec'd out and about the claimed cost savings. Because I will say that 15 years now, industry overall has been moving to the cloud, has a great deal of experience with deployments much, much larger, this moving from on-prem to cloud. And always it was around security, reliability, flexibility, and cost savings. And the first thing to go out the window was cost savings, right? It's that people end up net spending much more on the cloud than they ended up spending on-prem. I won't further blow up our board meeting on this topic, but just I want the record to reflect.
If we're going to move forward with this approval of this contract, are we, before the 3-year contract is signed, is that coming back to us or is?
We'll bring it back.
So I would like to respond so about the topic about SQL Server.
Yeah.
So 5 years ago, our SQL server was in charge of a lot of tasks, but we're shrinking right now. So the tasks that are being still running in SQL server, we're trying to move it out and reduce it to the minimum, so we don't need much power on the SQL server. So that's the reason why we're not, considering double size or anything like that. In the few months, it's very possible that we connect our students' information system with Clever directly. That way, we don't need any of the scripts that are running currently in the SQL server. That's number one reason why we're not concerned about. Our goal is to shut it down, actually.
Fair. And I mean, a 2 vCPU SQL server is pretty close to shutting it down, right? Let's put it on a 15-year-old Celeron that's running under somebody's desk. Yeah.
And on top of that, once we implement it, we mentioned that we're gonna keep reorganizing the servers, making sure that we use the minimum, and then come back to the board again to provide you with an update of where we are, and then explain, what will be the contract for 3 years after all the
Optimization
applications that we're gonna try to reduce us to the maximum. Yeah.
The IT team is still actively working to optimize our footprint. A lot of our applications, like the web help desk, is we're vetting it out to a SaaS solution hosted by a different vendor, not in the Azure cloud.
So that part then makes sense. If this is part of a moving away from first-party hosting in general, so not just like on our own servers, but like the transition to a cloud is more of a temporary thing to go all in on vendor-provided software and services. Like I'm okay with that, but then I would also wonder, like, didn't you just tell us you wanted 3-year lock-in, right? And does it make sense to get 3-year lock-in when our game plan is maybe in less than 3 years to be off of these things?
Our roadmap for IT footprint is very aggressive in the coming, I would say, quarter or so.
Yeah.
Where a lot of our applications is going to be offloaded to the SaaS solution. That's why within the
Right, then why 3 years? Why 3 years?
3 years basically, sorry. The first couple months is pay as we go. Like, yes, our instances, the footprint is going to be a little higher compared to the other months. But then once we optimize our footprint in the cloud, assuming currently we have 7 servers that we need to host. By the end of the fall, or beginning of the fall, we're hoping to have maybe 3 servers.
Cool.
Right? That's our goal.
In a nutshell, like once we move everything to SaaS that we just have these 3 services left. What are we talking about is there? What is hosted? What are we actually running on our Azure infrastructure in the fall if everything goes well?
Correct. Our vision is basically the 2 AD servers, a primary and secondary, and then one will be a utility server, and that's it.
Okay. And have we followed best practices with sizing those AD servers?
Correct.
Okay, because they seem pretty
correct. So the AD server uses very little CPU for authentication of user accounts, right? With dual FA.
I'll cross my fingers.
Correct. Well, within the first couple months or 3 months, we're going to resize to see where we are requirement-wise.
Okie doke. Yeah,
Mayor.
Yes, you may.
I just want to, touch on, I don't disagree with a lot of your points, President Weekly. I think it's also important, and we tried to convey this, it may not have came through crystal clear, is there's probably about 15 users, maybe 20 users in the entire district that use any of our file services or services here in the data center, quote unquote. All of our major applications in the last 3 years have been offloaded to SaaS. When I got here, Power School was still running on-prem. A lot of that heavy load, heavy utilization by, let's say 85% of the district on a daily basis was hosted here. So now, it's more important at this point, looking at bandwidth to the cloud and having that resource available, and then bringing in redundancy of our internet connection for the directory services and the thing that they're exploring, utilizing a link or pathway already through the county office that can go that way, right? So, my expectation would be we're relying very little on the cloud, tying in with Active Directory services at this point. but that's also in concert with Google services, right? And our multi-factor security for that. So there may be some changes, but I expect, as Johnson and Carlos pointed out, what we need is going to be very small.
Yeah.
We might have to beef up one of the servers, but we're not going to need 4 others, right? So,
And the hope is ultimately an exit.
yes.
Yeah. I'm not a Windows server guy so much, but like, is there like, was Azure Entra an option for Azure itself to host the AD versus us self-hosting the AD on an instance?
We would have that.
We'll have to explore that option.
Okay. Right. Because just like, I love the vision of like, nope, we don't run any servers. That's other people's problem because, we're a school district. We teach students. We don't go and run servers. We let other people run servers. I like that. I'm amenable to that.
I do too.
Okay. Any other questions from other trustees? Thank you for entertaining me on that. Yeah, cool. Just want to make sure we're making the right choices for the district.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we are on to 9.1. Okay, so now we're going to discuss the overall meeting calendar for the coming school year. So holy moly, the next year is coming fast. Only a few more weeks of school go before summer. Time to talk about the board meeting calendar. We've got a draft attached here. Our goal for tonight is to provide feedback, but we're not approving the official calendar tonight. There's a couple of things I'm hoping to use this time to discuss beyond just rubber stamping staff's provisional list of dates, and we'll get to that in just a second, fellow trustees. One change from what's here that I would like to propose, and I have run this by staff already, is that I would like to suggest that we move to a 6 p.m. start from a 7 p.m. start as a default for when we start open session. This aligns with best practices from surrounding districts. It still allows enough time to transit from a 5 p.m. Work environment and ensures we're all making decisions before we get tired and start being impaired even for a meaty session. Just want to pause there and do a temperature check on the thought of a 6 p.m. start.
Yeah, the one concern I have about that is that we've been utilizing that time beforehand for closed session, which before I was on the board, closed sessions used to come after the meeting, which seems like an even more intense option than starting the regular session at 7. So I'd be worried that we would lose that, say, hour and a half that we've sometimes utilized for really important discussions or having like really, things that are imperative to be discussed that week. And we need to have 2 or 3 items in there, and we want to start at 5:30, which is a disruption if you have to, like, it's early for people to have to start work. You wouldn't want to make that regular, but I think the board trustees have been very accommodating to try and make it when that need comes around. So that'd be my concern about moving it earlier than 7.
So, and not necessarily to say a personal concern, but I also appreciate the fact that we start at 7, because when we think about our parents, especially now that we're trying to get more parents to join our meeting, I think 7 o'clock would be a better time than 6 o'clock, where people are rushing to try to get home to, maybe try to start dinner. I know a lot of them can still join through Zoom, but that would be my other concern as well. I mean, we're so used to doing 7. I also, on a personal note, I do appreciate the fact that we do have closed session before our meetings. And sometimes, as you guys all know, sometimes we don't even have time to eat. And so I know, but sometimes if it's a really long meeting, I mean, not that we're going to, starve to death, but I think it's a 7 o'clock start time would be better, because if we start even closed session at 5 or 5:30, rather than starting at 6 and then maybe start closed session earlier than, I don't know, 5 o'clock. I think that would be, at least for me, it would be harder.
I really appreciate these inputs. I'm wondering that with enough advance heads up about when we would have closed session, when we wouldn't, because it's more often that we don't than we do, but when we do, it's important and we got to make time for that. If on those days we could look at maybe having open session later, but then have a default for open session on the earlier side for those meetings where we do not have closed session coming beforehand.
So my concern with that, and I'm going to say personally, it's so hard for me to like leave work and look at my personal calendar and look at my work calendar and then to try to figure out if that week we're going to start at 6 or we're going to start at 7. So I would rather keep it at 7. That's what at least I'm used to. And it just makes it easier, and I don't want to just make it
That's fair.
about.
What I was proposing was that we always start at 6, and it's either closed session or open session. And the time of the start of open session would happen after closed session. So we'd have a consistent start time for trustees.
No,
Like, when we have those short closed sessions, and are we starting board meeting at 6:20 or?
6:15 or.
don't we have to publish the schedule?
Yes, we do.
times in
We
advance?
do have to publish those in advance. So we couldn't just flow right into closed session, open session. We have to publish that in advance in the agenda. Yeah.
Meaning like, I think like a regular, like thing that makes it a regular meeting versus a special one is that it's literally on this thing that we adopt with the start time and the day, and we won't know to
Well,
be able
then
to say.
what makes it a ordinary meeting is that we publish the time in place of the meeting 72 hours in advance. Yes. And not that we've.
Did we do that for?
No,
special
Rick's saying no. Okay. I don't want to litigate this.
I don't have mine with me
Okay.
in front of me, but
Yeah, sorry.
I know that a regular scheduled meeting would refer to a calendar where
Yeah.
people know.
Yeah.
Because there are some things that can't be.
Yep.
Action can't be taken on if it's at a special meeting, right?
Okay.
So has to be a regularly scheduled, I think is the correct term.
Yep. Fair. Thank you. I stand corrected.
I don't know.
Sit corrected.
No, that's still time.
Oh, I don't, okay, yeah.
The
good point.
date,
Okay.
the dates for sure.
Dates for sure. Unclear on timing. Other trustees, in terms of just like, I figure this is a good chance for us just to examine our norms, like, and have the conversation about what start times make sense.
I think it sounds like the start time may not be as flexible, but we're trying to solve for not having these really long, late meetings, right?
Yeah.
So we've already, done a great job with these school presentations by shortening them. Maybe there's other ways we can look at the content or kind of the time spent during our board meeting and try to compress.
David?
I would personally prefer 6 p.m., but not strongly enough. I mean, yeah. So I don't have much. I think people have stronger feelings here.
The obnoxious thing to suggest would be splitting the difference and saying 6:30, which is an hour and a half after 5 p.m. Still allows for, up to 90 minutes of closed session to be happening after 5 p.m. Like floating trial balloon.
I'm also okay with 6:30, but I don't know if Jen and I have had the strong opinions on this.
Cecilia, is that okay to look at 6:30 versus 7?
I honestly, again, personally, it's really hard.
Mm.
Like I barely make it home sometimes. Like today I had a shake coming here. So starting at 6:30 would mean maybe me not even going home after work. So, but again, it's just me personally, right? And again, I do want to think of our parents.
Totally.
Some of them barely pick up kids from the after school program at 6 p.m. So if we are concerned, and at least for me, we already got the momentum of the Bayside school parents joining some of our meetings.
Yes.
I think 6 o'clock would be a little harder even for them. So again, I don't want to make this personally, but I also want to think of
I appreciate the input.
and I'm not
Yeah.
talking about the Bayside parents. It could be other parents that are used to starting at 7, and then maybe 6 might be a problem, but just.
And same for 6:30 is just.
I would
So
prefer the 7 still.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Mike, any more inputs on that?
No, I definitely prefer the 7. Yeah, just because
Okay.
it'll allow us that time beforehand.
Okay, appreciate the discussion. Thanks so much. And I'm glad that everyone felt comfortable speaking up about their interests and constraints. So,
Trustee Weekly, may I add?
Yes.
If you don't mind. I just looked up board bylaw
Yeah.
9320 meetings and notices. It does state in there under regular meetings that it's the second and fourth Wednesday. So as we look at the calendar, and that, of course, it states 7 o'clock. So any adjustments as we look at our board policies, if we want to make any changes, we'll just need to update this as well.
that's fair. We have occasionally moved the date from the 2nd and 4th.
Right, so we may have to amend this just to be a little more liberal.
Is there language in there that says like, except as noted and approved in a?
No, it just
Okay.
reminds that we need to post 72 hours, but there isn't specifically about moving.
Oh, fascinating. Okay. All right. Thank you.
President Weekly.
Yes.
I'll just confirm that it's date, time, and location on the board's officially adopted schedule.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Separately from that, changing gears, but also relevant to the topic here. So I just want to do a quick pass through our parking lot of topics that we've identified at prior meetings that need meaningful discussion as a board. I want to be really clear that right now is not the time when we're actually going to be discussing or debating these topics. Just want to make sure that we capture them top of funnel. Then the idea is that at the annual offsite is probably a good chance for us to start mapping those topics to dates for when we could go and talk about these things. Yeah.
Point of clarification.
Yeah.
When we talk about the parking lot, are we conceptualizing this as discrete agenda items to be covered at one meeting, or more broadly, like strategic priorities that we want to have more in-depth discussion about?
So it's a very fair point of clarification. I think my suspicion is that for some things, they could be an agenda item that maybe we'd get through in some meeting in like 15, 30 minutes. In others, they might merit a study session, or even in like a big case, it might be like spinning up a committee to go and review and discuss and then report out. So it depends on the topic, right? So I think this is more like, what are topics that are important for us to discuss that are not part of the default governance calendar, right? Because there's some things that we are required to discuss, that we're required by law to go and review. We're going to abide by the law. We're going to go and do all those things. And this is above and beyond the things that are on the default governance calendar. What are important topics? What are important discussions for us to have as a board beyond that? Yeah.
But then is that different, the parking lot list different than what's in the TBD on the future agenda items?
Some of the parking lot items are there and some aren't. And so like some collation work is needed to make sure that we've captured them all. Yeah. So I can just do a quick rundown of what's here, or we can just, how would people like to proceed, just to make sure that we've captured all of the different high-level topics that we'll want to discuss at some point in the future?
I thought you said you were bringing it to the offsite. Like, I don't know.
The,
what are
the
we doing
specific mapping of which topics to which dates, but I just wanted to make sure that I'd collected them. So Evelyn, for instance, did a wonderful job of annotating when any of us during the segment in the meeting where there's any future business, somebody had made a proposal about, hey, we should talk about that at some point. And so like I've got a list there. So if y'all want, I can just bring that list and the parking lot list that I've been collating and the TBD list. I can bring that all to the offsite. We can hash it out there and then map it to dates. Do folks want to do that?
I think we should do that at the
Great.
website.
Okay, wonderful. We'll do that.
I'm happy to add to the list.
Yeah.
But part of my question was to understand what the scope is.
Mhm.
And I do think that there's difference in my view of like one-off type things versus broader topics that I think are going to be more fulsome discussions.
Yep.
In the first category of one-off topics, I think it'd be good to, I would like to better understand and maybe have some collaboration with RCEF. I think that's been in the works a little bit, but I don't think they've come to give a presentation or anything like that.
Yes.
And
Good point.
that might be a nice topic as a
Yep.
one-off. On the broader set of topics where I don't think it's going to be a one-off conversation, or yeah, I don't think it'll be a one-off conversation, but will be probably among the menu of options for the board and governance team to discuss as a whole on whether or not these are things that we want to prioritize as the district. Three things. One, I would love for us to gain a little bit more clarity and proactive communication with the community on financial transparency. I think that's particularly important right now, given the past 2 years, frankly. And we just got to figure out what's the best way that we can make that really readily accessible. And I think that's part of the trust building exercise with our community. Second, I would love for us to think a little bit more about how we can make the website more accessible and yeah, both in terms of navigation, but how are we thinking about using it as a way, a forum to communicate? And I don't think that's a prescriptive thing. I think that's going to take some feedback probably from the community.
Yep.
And then the third is, and this, as a potential topic would be looking again, I think we talked at the Clifford presentation just about the current boundaries that are there. I think there's a broader discussion of whether or not we want to revisit what the boundaries of the district look like just as things are changing. And I think Cecilia mentioned last time something similar, just of like what the future of
Sorry, the boundaries of the district?
sorry, of how our home school neighborhood schools are bounded and like where students are being allocated. I think specifically of Clifford just because it has a very large area that it covers. And
It's sort
think
of
we've seen
default
firsthand-
catchment. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
And I maybe that's still the right answer, but it would be good to think proactively about whether or not that still needs to be the case or whether that needs to be revisited. And then I think transportation probably ties into that a little bit as well.
It does. Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Cool. Any other comments on topics? We can take the rest of the offsite. Okay. Now let's get to the calendar part. Provided the bylaws actually allow us to do anything but accept the specific dates already proposed. Do people have any desired amendments to the dates that are here in front of us? No. My only bummer is August 19th is Music in the Park, so my wife's going to be singing then.
May I add, one con of not having a board meeting prior to students starting is that any contracts, any emergency credentials in my department, or anything like that would not be brought to the board until after children have started.
Are people going to come at us with knives if we do it on the 12th, which is also the first day of school?
I think that's a pretty long day for the administrators. Yeah,
That's why I'm asking the question the way I'm asking.
I would say that we don't do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the board, it has messaged in the past that it's not preferred to be bringing contracts after services have started.
Okay.
So I just want to make that known that if the first meeting is on the 19th, then that would really put a bind on things. And sometimes things are finalized over the summer. It's just in the nature of working with partners. So just want to point that out.
Okay.
So I guess the question is the 5th an option, and is that something that the board wants to have to be able to take care of that business before school starts, or are we comfortable with accepting that contracts are going to start before they're approved?
Yeah. I'm out on the 5th. I can't make the 5th.
Okay.
Yeah. So we may not have quorum on the 5th, so it may not be an option there.
I think we're comfortable with it, Wendy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sorry. What about other days in the week prior? Yeah.
Those work for me again, just like if we were to do it on, say, August 11th, that Tuesday, are people going to be really grumpy about having that be the day before?
Yeah, I would
the
think
first day
the
of
10th
school?
would be better than the 11th.
10th works for me. That seems like maybe less of an allergic reaction from folks. Proximity to first day of school.
I'm just thinking, as far as like posting too.
Yeah.
And then I'm just thinking like, it might be some people might be out the month of July on vacation. And so that might be hard to get some of the agenda items. I mean, I don't know. Just, I wanted to point it out just because I know that maybe sometimes in the background, some people might, like, I don't know when you guys take vacation and stuff like that.
Staff is back that full prior week, right? So August 3rd, everyone's back in seats. So that gives people, I'm seeing nods. Yeah. Okay. So there's a full week of button seat. Like,
I was just saying, like, if they're still off the last the last week of July.
Yeah.
Usually you need to submit your
10
items
days before.
way in
Yeah.
ahead so that you post on Friday
Yeah,
or whatever it is. So if you're gonna post for the 10th, you're gonna have to post.
Yeah. The agenda will need to be locked by July 31st. Yeah.
Right. Administrators are back, site administrators are back July 27th, but most people that are submitting memos are 12-month employees. So we would be prepared for that.
Okay. Sounds like they're fine with it. So it would work fine for me. Mike, thoughts? Other trustees, thoughts? Trustee King's okay with August 10th. Mike's
I mean,
thinking.
August 10th, I mean, it's fine. I'm just trying to figure out, like, is it required? I'm okay with it.
Okay. So I think we could do a meeting on the 10th just to review any contracts that need to be approved in advance of the school year beginning. Okay. Yeah. So be it. Okie doke. Any other calendaring discussions beyond that in terms of teeing things up for the year? Really appreciate all the thoughtfulness to go and put together a draft calendar that's looking at all these different Jenga pieces of breaks and what. It's like it's some fancy Tetris. Yeah, somebody's playing there in their calendar. Okay, so again, we're not formally approving it. We're just sort of capturing changes, and I think we've done that. So great. Okay. All right, with that, moving on then to consent. As has been typical for our last couple of meetings, we have an enormous number of items on our consent agenda here, most of which are board policies. As a reminder for the public, we are working through a backlog of about 200 policies that need updating to be fully compliant with the state. It's a huge amount of work from the policy committee and staff, so shout out to them. Good work, policy committee. For many policies, we're either required to put in specific language or the statewide California School Board Association has already had a team of lawyers review the specific language that they think school boards should adopt. So we only want to stray from that when we have real conviction about ways in which we think our district should operate differently. Any board member can pull a policy from consents to active discussion, but for unobjectionable changes, we're trying to have an efficient system here. And just as a reminder, just because something is in our consent agenda does not mean it is not important. It just means that we've already reviewed it or it is unobjectionable, and we'd like to focus our limited time together on substantive matters requiring presentation and discourse. Any board member at the change of the agenda segment can request it be pulled from consent to discuss. Would somebody like to move to approve the consent agenda here?
So
Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Great. 11, we are on to board and superintendent reports.
I attended the Ken Awards on Friday night, so congratulations to our award-winning Extended Learning Opportunities program. And it was one of two that got perfect scores and were recognized as exemplary I think it was called exemplary, right? Yeah, exemplary programs. Yes. Yeah, something along those lines. So that was a lot of fun. Cecilia was there. Dr. Rubalcaba was there. Neither of them were at the Redwood City District table. They had other roles there, but it was okay. So, I attended the other welcoming event for Dr. Rubalcaba. This was at the Hoover Gym for Adelante Selby, Garfield, Hoover, and Taft School. So got to see staff in the afternoon and families in the evening. That was a lot of fun, and some delicious food by our food services team again, with brown sugar lemonade and this amazing bruschetta with like this pesto and burrata. It's really good. Like you can't get enough of these things. And then we had a Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. That was a couple Thursdays ago. They reviewed and discussed the bond audit report. Did we see that at the board? No, it's coming to the board. That'll be coming to the board, the one that they saw. They're planned for writing up their annual report, which they'll review at their next meeting, and then that'll come to the board. This is for the last year's annual report. Reviewed and discussed updates on the Measure T and Measure S projects. And then they reviewed and discussed bond activity. And when they do that, they look specifically at like 5 categories. One is expenditures, what's been spent in the period. Mind you, this is a quarterly meeting, so this is looking at Q4, Q1 at this point, somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah, something along those lines. Right, fiscal year.
Fiscal year Q2 through December 31st.
They looked at change orders. There was one. They like to look at no bid contracts. There were none. They like to look at new projects and spending approved by the board. There were none. And they look for any current litigation and public disputes related to the bond programs. Also none. So the review part was pretty quick. And then finally, they look through the district's financial updates on total revenues and expenditures for both Measure T and S. And that's sort of the oversight.
You've got to be a wrap this year, right? You're pretty close to it.
Yeah, it's pretty close. The solar projects have to kind of wrap up, and then I guess there's probably a little bit of closeout. It'll probably go into the next fiscal year because here we are already at the end of June. I'll let the experts speak.
Yeah, we're nearing the end for sure in terms of available money. Mostly bond program management's coming out of that. The solar project's coming out of Fund 40, which was the reimbursement from the former projects or the completed projects during that. We'll probably string the CBOC along because it is only one CBOC, right? So that they can continue to report on it. And although the majority of the solar project is not Measure T, it's still kind of under that umbrella, so there's still a little bit of ownership with it, which I don't think is a bad thing at this point.
Fair enough. Thank you, Mike.
That's it.
Anything
Yep.
else?
Nope.
Okay, great.
I had the opportunity a few weeks ago to visit KIPP several weeks ago, which is really interesting. Not technically one of our district schools, but still serving the students of our community. So it's great to just see that. And first time, good visit. Went with Trustee Weekly. Great to hear kind of the progress that they're making academically and some of the challenges they're facing as well. I think one of the big takeaways that I came away with was I think there's a good opportunity just to find ways to share best practices. And again, I think we're all serving a broader community, and I think there's strengths and areas for growth for both, but it seemed like there's an appetite to have some collaboration there. So maybe something to think about. Separately, attended the Superintendent's Advisory Committee meeting, which was great. Lots of learning. Martin was there to tell us all about the savings from the solar project. Frankly, I didn't know all of it, but it was great. Lots of savings. Both projected and then more than that. So it's great to hear that there's a lot of good work doing, not just for the environment, but also financially for the district. And we talked about some topics for next year, but it was also great I think that was Dr. Baker's final Superintendent Advisory Committee, so a little bit bittersweet. And then also attended the Health and Wellness Committee meeting earlier this week, which was really interesting. I think Trustee King has mentioned this, but one of the highlights is really getting to hear from the kids directly about the things that they like and things that they wish were different. And obviously, it comes from a student's perspective, which has to be taken into consideration. But I really love the candor that they showed. Poor poor Richie and Fernando really took some heat on this one because we talked about the food stuff. It just gave me a little bit of thinking. I thought they addressed a lot of the questions well, and they're tough things like why do we have spaghetti? Like I'd rather have pizza, etc. But a lot of them were legitimate questions, and I thought they answered them really well, just in terms of explaining like the amount of like work and planning and thoughtfulness that the staff do. And it just made me think that I wonder if there's an opportunity to like get a little bit more involvement so that the students kind of understand like all the work that's going into it and also have this feedback loop so that Reggie staff can also be like, oh, I understand, what you're getting. And they get that, they acknowledge that there were some venues already there, but I thought it was a good interaction, even if it was very tough from the students to the staff.
I'll just add, he did a great presentation at Kennedy's Career Fair last year for like food services and stuff. And so he's well versed in being able to talk about it to student populations. So I thought that was really good.
They were under heat, and I thought that they answered the questions really well.
Under heat is what they do in food.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
And then actually the one last thing was there were actually a number of questions that were really topical directly from the students, just on things like mental health services and really understanding what is available, how to utilize them, and certain specific situations on like if this happens, what to do. So it was great that we had that avenue available for them to learn about it. But again, just thinking about like it just made me think about ways maybe we can incorporate student voice in some way. And it's like there's tough, obviously, like really hard to even get Pledge of Allegiance, but figuring some ways, and I think there, and maybe it's part of me just discovering the ways that already exist, but it's something that just popped up in my mind.
Thank you. Okay.
I also attended the Kent Awards, and on top of actually our district getting a 20 out of 20, and that's why they got an exemplary award. Dr. Baker was recognized for his years of service with our district, so that was excellent. That was a surprise. I already knew, but I wasn't supposed to say anything, so I didn't sit down with them. I don't want to say anything. I was sitting with the committee. And then I also attended a meet and greet at Hoover, which was great because then I was able to help one of our parents get services at that same time. And then I attended the Superintendent Advisory in English and the Spanish one at Hoover. And then because I was there already, I got to visit. Dr. Rubalcaba was going to be there already. So I'm like, I'm just going to tag along. And so I got to go, and it was really nice. Got to dance with the preschoolers too. So it was great. We visited many classrooms. So it was great.
Fantastic. Thank you. As Trustee Lee mentioned, he and I toured KIP Excellencia. They highlighted some concerns with communications around facilities improvements. They had not been told that portable AC was coming. So they went out independently to get Measure K funding from the county and then had to go back to the county to look to repurpose the funds after the district unexpectedly and delightedly dropped off the coolers. Similarly, they didn't really have any advance notice of the LED lighting install. So they have persistent concerns around perimeter security that have been unaddressed for years, including gates that are easy to slip under or hop over, crash bars that can be opened from the outside. And these aren't just academic concerns. Many months they have to clear out beer bottles that have been left on the campus. They had wanted to install security cameras at their own expense, but were apparently denied by the district due to a claim of insufficiency of bandwidth. The blacktop had serious cracks in it that went unaddressed for years until a workers' comp issue with a staff member twisting their ankle caused us to go and patch up the blacktop. So they're hoping for a very modest amount from Measure S funds to be used to address these kind of basic safety issues. And then finally, there were 3 large containers from the county's Sheriff Activity League taking up meaningful space on campus that apparently haven't actually been used for years, but the county hasn't been willing to remove them. So we're going to try and bark up the flagpole there with the county to figure out why they're just squatting a bunch of almost dumpsters on the property there. Completely separately from that, the new research came out from the UK's Education Endowment Foundation's student grouping study, which covered 15,000 students at 120 school sites. And they found that high math attainment students who were held back to mixed attainment groups learned at a much lower rate than those who were given an opportunity to learn with a high attainment group. The study looked at equity impacts and found no negative effects on the low attainment group. So just studies like this should, I think, inform our overall best practices for how we're thinking about curriculum at the district. I did field some more inputs around my very much not official rcsd.info website and how we present information about schools there and about budget. And then with the data actually from tonight's presentations, we now have the full 2025-2026 data on each school loaded up there on that website. The presentation was loaded as an attachment. Yeah. Cool. 12. The next segment of our meeting is informational items. These are where we receive information but are not making a decision about it. To approve it, just acknowledge that we've received it. Typically, these don't see a lot of discussion, but are pro forma items that are required to be periodically presented to us as a board. 12.1 is our county investment fund, where we keep our cash. It looks like we got just shy of 4% last quarter. Rick, anything more you want to share there? We're good? Okay, great. 12.2 is Connect Charter Schools' second interim financials. Okay. 12.3 is KIP Charter Schools' second interim financials. 12.4 is Rocket Ship Charter's second interim financials. Noticing a theme here. Okay. All right. And with that, we are onward to correspondence. Who'd like to tackle?
I think we all received some emails from concerned family parents that are here speaking tonight as well about about the article that was published and the district's response. I was glad to see. I think it was a little bit slow to begin, but it's good to see the district's response coming in today and that communication back.
Thank you. Other trustees?
On a more uplifting note, I think we also received some correspondence from a parent who described her daughter's experience finding inspiration in music and allowing that to really push her to try new things and get engaged in school. And I thought that was great and should be appreciated, certainly by us, and then want to recognize all the work that the district does in the schools and the staff. Like, it's great. Like, it's not just academics, it's also enrichment, finding ways to get our kids to school and enjoying it. So that's really nice to receive.
Thank you. Other correspondence? I received some further correspondence about Orion combo classes, and also, like all of us, upon the KQED article. That takes us to other business, suggested items for future agenda. We covered this to a certain degree, covering the calendar, but anything else people want to add here?
I'm not looking at the calendar right now, but I know that we have an HR report kind of regularly at some point. I wonder if we should include just a review for the board to understand like hiring practices and things like that in there, just to kind of review it and put it in, not on a special thing, but just as part of that report. But that would be the only other thing that I could think to put in.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay. With that, we're on to reflection. How did tonight's meeting go? Feedback?
I think it went well. I do have to say, when obviously you prove your point to the IT department, I was just feeling a little like, I understand what they're coming from, and obviously I was at one point gonna say, I know you said you were not gonna not approve it, but I'm wondering if, and I understand the community needs to know your point of view too, if you maybe could have asked those questions to them ahead of time so that it would have been more of a your opinion versus their opinion. But again, that's just a comment, my point.
Thank you.
But other than that, well, and
Mine was just a question. One of the public comments was about not getting a response from the board on their email. I know our practice is to have our board president, right, speak for us. So we shouldn't be like sending out a acknowledgement. Right?
So I write responses to many of the emails that are sent. I write that response strictly as myself, not wanting to represent the opinions of the rest of the board, unless it is a board discussion that we have already had, because I don't want to misrepresent the opinions of of other trustees. So if it's a matter that is on the record, that has been decided, that where there is a policy, I'll say like, look, this is district policy. To comply with the Brown Act, when I reply to emails, I do not reply all.
Right. So we should feel comfortable going ahead and responding to some of these
Yes.
correspondence.
And I would encourage it. So again, just responding as an individual in your individual capacity, neither representing the official position of the district nor the official position of the board. But yeah, I think it's a healthy democracy when people reach out to the governing body with an opinion, with questions, and we can, as individuals, engage with them so they know their email was read, they're being taken seriously, and then we can deliberate those things, we can agendize those things, and so forth.
Yeah. I'll echo some of what Cecilia mentioned. I think, and I don't know where the line is, but at some point, and you mentioned like this is your bailiwick. This certainly was not mine. And I don't know where the line is. I would be wary of us diving too deep into what I think are maybe management decisions, although I hear the point, which is you have a fact base of understanding and questioning some of those decisions. And so I don't know where the right line is, but it is something I think we should continue to be mindful of. I do appreciate that you made a statement at the get-go about what the current situation is. As a district, as the representative of the board, I think it's important for us, as has been stated, for us to be as transparent as we possibly can and to acknowledge challenges that we are facing and that our parents are facing and that our students are facing and that our staff are facing. And so I think it was good for us to get ahead of that. And I think Mike said it very kindly. I think we should reflect on this as a district and think about the ways that we can be a little bit more timely in responding to community concerns, just as a general matter, and especially in matters of this type of importance.
Yeah.
I think we really want and need to continue building community trust, and so that's just something to think about. But I thought that the board statement at the beginning was a good start.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a really awkward meeting. Some really important things here. Like we heard from North Star, we approved 40 policies. We had reinstatement of layoffs from February. I mean, some really important things were happening for the district. And yet we could totally not talk at all about a big community concern. So I did appreciate that you led with the opening statement and made one to address that, acknowledge it, explain how we're kind of bound by it, but that we're hearing the community. Because I think that's a really important thing is that, the district is hearing them. The district is hearing them. I spoke with Wendy today, and it's very clear that everyone's taking this, with the gravity that it should be. So it's good. But yeah, awkward meeting. Thanks for the opening statement to sort of smooth over that awkwardness.
Thanks, Mike. Dr. Buckman, any reflections?
No, I thought it worked really well. And Jennifer, board trustee, I appreciated you mentioning, this idea of like when emails come out, and I'm thinking maybe that's a great topic for our retreat, right? Like to come around with, like an expectation, right? Because truth is like these emails, we're gonna, the community wants to connect with you all, wants to connect with us. And there will be a variety, of different types of emails. Maybe some you might field our way, right? Or send our way. Maybe others it's more of like a one-on-one conversation where you respond to them. Maybe there's others that are, more legally bound or more where you need some support. And so I think that, that's a great, topic I think for us to come around on July 16th. I know we agreed on that date as a retreat day. But in terms of how the meeting ran overall, in terms of reflecting, I think it was great that as you mentioned, Mike, you led with, with that statement. And I think that was really powerful for the community to hear you validate that we're aware and then we're on top of everything and that we're going to move forward with student safety in mind. And so I thought that was really powerful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, that's our reflection, and I love that we do that. So thank you so much that we do that. Meeting calendar, just noting that we do have a closed session coming up on Wednesday, May 27th, beginning at 5:50 p.m., going to 6:50 p.m. Other than that, just June 10th, we've got closed session at 6:15 p.m. also. Just make sure everyone's got that on their calendars, and great. And that takes us to the end of our meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. The meeting is over.